In the last video, we started the journey on uncovering your purpose and identity by answering some of your questions. A lot of people have questions around, obviously, your identity and your purpose. And as believers, I want to just clarify that we all have similar purposes, and that is to know God, to love God, and to live for Him and expand His kingdom. We do that through our gifts and our talents. We do that through our testimonies and even our experiences. I call these specific things our assignments, so how you live out your purpose. So what was I born to do? That is connected to my famous purpose questions, which we will answer in a couple of days. But today, I just want to go over some questions that are related to what we've been talking about. Question 1, how do you take the first steps towards your purpose? So the first step that you take towards your purpose is, 1, what we said in the last video, spending time with the Lord, healing your past so that you are clear about who you are. Once you're clear about who you are, you want to discover not only your spiritual gifts, but your talents. Your talents are things like your ability to administrate, or your ability to sing, or your creative traits. All those talents are connected to your purpose. God is very purposeful in how He puts things together. So the journey to discovering your purpose starts with healing your identity, understanding your gifts, understanding your talents, and then getting in a place where you can get support, training, and some of that training could be academic. Some of that training could be through your church. It just depends. When we talk about purpose or your assignment, it's not all in the church or all in the kingdom. Some of you guys are called to be teachers. Some of you guys are called to be artists. Some of you guys are called to have a trucking company. Some of you guys are called to have a catering company. And so you want to understand that it is very much connected to your gifts and your talents. The second question that we got was, can you take on someone else's identity and purpose, or is identity and purpose only birthed through trauma? So those are two questions. The first thing is, you cannot take on someone's identity and purpose and flourish well. What I mean by that is, a lot of us, we spend a lot of time living in a false identity. Let me share with you guys the story about Jacob. Remember him? The Lord prophesied to his mother that he would be a ruler, that he had an inheritance over his life, and then they named him Jacob. I don't know why. Jacob means deceiver. So then he goes through his whole life deceiving and really living outside of his identity until he has to go back home and face his brother who he deceived. And it says in Genesis 29 that he wrestled with God, and God renamed him Israel. And so there's a lot of times we go through life living an identity based off of what we have been named, based off of what we have experienced, based off of our limitations. And it's not until we come to God and wrestle and get definition around who we are that we have clarity around that. So can you live a fake life? Can you live a fake identity and purpose? Yes. A lot of us do it because we live off of the expectations of other people. We live trying to prove to other people that they are wrong. And grown-ups do this. I work with people 50, 60 years old, still trying to discover who we are. Now, trauma is not the only thing that shapes you, right? We've talked about gifts. We've talked about talents. We've talked about just who you are in God. It is actually a dangerous thing to allow trauma to define who you become, because if we are living to prove people wrong or to show them that we did make it, you're not living in your authentic self. And we'll talk about that a little bit. Your authentic self is truly who God called you to be, and you cannot do that when you're living out of a place of trauma. Another question that we got is it possible to not fully know your identity, but to know your purpose? You know, and I really don't think that it is possible, because our purpose comes out of our identity. So a lot of times when I ask people, what is your identity? They'll say, well, I'm a mother. They'll say, you know, I'm a teacher. They'll say I am, you know, a worker. But that's not what your identity is. That is what you do. So a lot of times people confuse identity and function. So our purpose is what we were made to do, or why we were put on earth. And that is very much connected to your identity. Once you know that you are a son son, you are loved by God, you are chosen, then out of that you can say, God, because you love me and you chose me, what do you want me to do to contribute to the earth? Or what do you want me to do to build the kingdom of God? So purpose flows out of you truly knowing who your identity is. I look forward to answering some more questions and keeping this chat going in the next video. Talk to you soon.